seated.
Ever since Dylan left us and joined the Micah 6 project, this passage has stood out to me. In fact, at the beginning of 24, I printed it out and put it in front of my desktop computer so I'd see it every day as a reminder of what I want to do in 24. And then in March, we had the opportunity of going to El Salvador and join a mission called Shelter Helps to build homes, and their theme was Micah 6 verse 8 and all of our shirts. So next Sunday, I'm hoping to do a little presentation on our trip, and all of our shirts are Shelter with Micah 6 printed all over them. So now I get to read it to you again today. Stand up, plead your case before the mountains. Let the hills hear what you have to say. Hear, O mountains, the Lord's accusation. Listen, you everlasting foundations of the earth. For the Lord has a case against his people. He is lodging a charge against Israel. My people, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? Answer me. I have brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. I sent Moses to lead you, also Aaron and Miriam. My people, remember what Balak, king of Moab, counseled, and what Balaam, son of Beor, answered. Remember your journey from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the righteous acts of the Lord. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God.
It's my pleasure to introduce Coleman to some of you. Hands up if you've had a chance to visit Micah 6 over the past few years. So that's good. We do have quite a few people for whom Micah 6 is familiar and for whom Coleman is familiar. Coleman and Dylan went to school at Harding many, many years ago. And the vision of Micah 6 was a vision that the two of them could see even then. And they were looking for a place for that vision to happen. And Coleman found this place in Pontiac, Michigan. And the story kind of begins there. I'll let him tell that part of the story. But since Dylan left and joined this ministry, they have continued this ministry of taking Micah chapter 6 and making the kingdom of God just a little bit more visible. And when you do that, you start to make the Bible come true. And so Coleman and Dylan have made Micah 6 verse 8 come to life. And I also think of Isaiah 61 when I think of their ministry. Isaiah 61 is that verse. Jesus comes into church and they give him the scroll and he rolls out to Isaiah 61 and he reads these first two verses. But if you continue, I think you start to hear of some people like Coleman and like Dylan that are making the kingdom of God a little bit more visible. Isaiah 61 continues and says, they will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. They will rebuild ancient ruins and restore places long devastated. They will renew ruined cities that have been devastated for generations. And then as a result, strangers will shepherd your flocks. Foreigners will work in your fields. And you will be called priests of the Lord, ministers of our God. So, didn't know I would be that emotional about that. That verse has really come to life for me when I consider what Dylan and Coleman do. And so I'm really glad we get a chance to hear a little bit about what Coleman's been up to. So Coleman, welcome you to the stage.
is so good to be back. I was thinking earlier, like, when was the last time I was here? Somebody said this morning, you usually come with Dylan, and I said, I know. Dylan is on a birthday weekend right now. He and Carrie are in Chicago. Bethany and I had the joy of watching Cooper on Friday night. So Cooper, his little 1-year-old, was with us on Friday. But Dylan sends his love, and he's really sorry he can't be here today, but he'll be up here soon. It is great to see everybody. It has been 12 years since we started Micah 6. It has grown up with a number of your kids who came out in some of those early mission trips and early days where we were, like, okay, kids, you're going to sleep on this side of the house. It doesn't have electricity, but if you need to charge your phones, you can do that on this side of the house, and the water's a little touchy, and some of those things are still true. But it's been going and growing, and somebody said, like, it's been 12 years, and I said, that's impossible. I am not old enough to have done anything for 12 years. But it's true. I'm a little grayer and a little fatter than the last time I saw you. So it's great to be here. Always, you have been, sorry, God. I meant more portly. So Tintern has been there from the beginning, since it was an idea, and has supported and loved and visited and encouraged and grown with us. And I'm just so grateful for this congregation for that. For some of you who maybe are newer here and are like, this seems like a weird little love fest, what's going on here? Micah 6 Community is an organization that we started. Dylan and I were, like Noel said, we're friends in college, had sort of this idea and this vision that started doing neighborhood work in Searcy, Arkansas, and supporting families and encouraging them and helping them navigate the social safety network and doing housing repairs and playing games with kids. And as we came up on graduation, we said, let's just go somewhere and do this. This has been way more fun than anything I've done in a classroom, and I think it's going to be way more beneficial than anything we do in an office. So let's go do this. And so we talked for a long time about where we wanted to go. I said, well, how about Detroit? Everybody said, you first. And so I sold everything that didn't fit into my car, and I drove to Michigan, and I found an attic to rent for a while, and then eventually found out that I was renting from squatters, which is a uniquely Detroit experience. And slowly started getting pulled and plugged into different things, and eventually came to Pontiac. And we found a house, and we bought that house, and I called on my friends from college that were doing it with us, and said, I bought a house in Pontiac, Michigan, like, come on. And most of them said, where's that? And I said, it doesn't matter, just come do it. And so I had a group of friends, including Dylan, who all moved to Michigan with me to start this thing, and we've just been at it. The name comes from this verse that we read, Micah 6:8. The book of Micah, God shows up, and he says, I am not really happy with the way that things have been structured around worshiping me. The temple is the bit of a business. The judges who say they're working for me are always available for a bribe. And this is that I'm going to bring the Assyrians and the Babylonians to Israel, and they're going to dismantle this system that y'all have created, because it seems to be more about making money than it seems to be about me. And in chapter 6, this is the people crying out and saying, but God, we're like, what if we double down? Like, we've been doing olive oil as part of our sacrifices. What if we give you rivers of olive oil? And then they say, like, we've been doing, bulls and rams as part of sacrifices for years. What if we do even more sacrifices? And the people are essentially asking God, like, what if we double down on church? And even getting to the point of saying, what if we, rather than change anything about what we're doing, what if we give up our firstborn or generation of our families? Can we keep doing it this way? And there's a whole other sermon in there about whether or not the way that we're doing church today is sacrificing our children and their faith. But God says, you're asking if you can just do church better. And what I'm saying is that I've never actually wanted any of that. I've wanted you to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And the Assyrians and the Babylonians are coming, and they're going to scatter you, and they're going to undo this system. But if you, as a remnant in a distant land, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly, that is the things that are going to draw people back to you. And those are the things that are going to draw people back to us and back to God. And so these ideas, justice, mercy, humility, were kind of the three guiding ideas for Micah 6 as we kind of looked into, what is our posture moving into a neighborhood? Everything that we do is an issue of justice. It's not fair that because you live in my zip code or in my city, the expectation is that your housing is substandard, or that you just don't have access to healthy food and that's just how it is. Or it's not fair that just because you're growing up in my zip code, you're going to be forced to attend struggling schools. Justice is kind of in everything that we do. We needed a lot of mercy. We were 6 college-educated white kids moving into a pretty tough neighborhood where we were not from. And we knew that we were going to say things, try things, bump into things, that we were going to be making mistakes along the way, and we needed the mercy of our neighborhood as we sort of, failed successfully with them in a lot of ways. And then humility. Everything we do requires humility. We are a listening group of people. We don't do anything that doesn't come from the neighborhood first. We ask a lot of questions, and we are willing to be redirected if we try something and it's not working. We have to be willing to sort of put down anything that we thought was going to be a great success that doesn't end up being a great success. So we needed the humility in that. And this is the framework and the DNA of the work. We bought this house. We moved in together for the first 6 years of Micah 6 community. Our whole team lived in this house together. And so on my best days and my worst days, my best friend was 20 feet down the hall from me. And we could get together and celebrate and commiserate. In 2018, I always say something horrible happened, which is that we all got married. And shockingly, the wives did not want to live with the friends anymore. And so we, in some ways, in our own little neighborhood, we were scattered. I went 1 block west. Dylan and Carrie went 2 blocks east.